letting you all know that I've started the live on YouTube, and then in a few minutes I'll start the recording.
Thank you very much, Vicki.
Are you in briefing? And are you able to speak with them at a phone now?
Vicki, I'm assuming that we're going to also have Councilor Prinsloo joining.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Hello, Councilor Prinsloo here.
That's who I thought it was on that number. Okay, well, we are at the top of the hour, so why don't we go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you will all stand. Well, there we go. If you will all stand and or recite the pledge. And we do have a nice flag in front of us, thanks to James. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, with that, Vicki, do we know if we have Summer on yet?
Summer is not on yet.
All right, then why don't we
I could,
go ahead.
I can start out with some of it. Oh, hold on, here she comes. There, Summer's on.
Wonderful. Welcome, Summer.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. I apologize for my appearance.
Oh, you are, I think, 1 minute right on time, in my opinion. You're good to go. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the first topic on our agenda, and that is an update regarding Resolution 712-2012, adopting the budget, making appropriations, and levying and categorizing property taxes for the fiscal year 2021-2022. Summer, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes, this was just a small Scrivener's error that we had on the resolution to where it did not add up. So in your packet, you can see the revised resolution. It was a rounding by $2. And it was actually the county that found it when they were putting the numbers in. So they caught it, brought it to our attention, and we have time to make that quick fix.
Wonderful. Is there anything really you need for us on the discussion, or pretty much, a $2 rounding error? I'm glad it was adjusted and fixed. But I think in this case, we just need to move forward with the resolution and basically reapprove this one, correct?
Yes, it's more of just an FYI, but technically speaking, we would want to reapprove the resolution.
It's actually not necessary to do the motion, redo it. All you're doing is letting them know there's a Scrivener's error.
Got it. So we don't need to do much on it. But with that, though, I want to make sure if Councilor Audrish, Prinsloo, or Dodge have any questions or any, James is nodding no.
Dodge, do not have any questions.
Okay, then I think you have, at least from those that are present, we're good to go and no concerns on that one. So we can move forward then, I assume. With that, let's move on to Resolution 718-2021, a resolution adopting a supplemental budget for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. And Summer, this would be back to you as well.
And it will, forgive me, I'm so sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm just coming back from, I don't know if Vicki told you what was going on. I do some animal rescue stuff on the side, and we had an issue with a wildfire over here. So I'm just coming back in the door, and I'm pulling up the slides, which hopefully you have in front of you as well. So City Council adopted an original budget for 2020-21, which we are just about to close out. And as we did that, management reviewed where we're at, excuse me, where we're at financially, and found a few places where adjustments needed to be made. So I want to present those to you and see what questions you might have. There are 4 adjustments, and we're going to walk through each of the 4. The first one has to do with the generator purchase. That is a capital fund or general fund capital outlay of $13,000. And the council has already approved the purchase. It just wasn't in the budget yet. So this adjustment is getting that $13,000 into the budget. We're going to use, as you probably remember from the discussion when the expenditure was approved, we're going to use the reimbursement for training funds for Officer Thoman.
Yes, I recall.
Any questions on that one?
James is a no. Prinsloo?
Officer Robert Prinsloo has no questions.
Okay. Dodge?
Dodge has no questions.
Okay, let's move on to adjustment number 2.
Adjustment number 2, transfer for winter storm debris cleanup. This is the result of a conversation earlier in the year. Obviously, winter storms were not in our purview when we created the budget. So it's my understanding that City Council asked that we add $15,000 to the budget for cleaning up some of the trees along the city's right of way. That was back in March 2021, and this is the transfer to accomplish that. So it's money coming out of general funds contingency, and we're going to put it over in street fund operations where the expense will be coming out of.
Okay, and I do recall this, and Mike, I believe you gave us an update that these funds have now been all used.
No, we're still waiting on the final aspect of this project, which is to get the tree guys back in to do the climbing for us for the stuff we weren't able to get to with the equipment that we rented.
Okay. So with that, on number 2, Councilor Odrish, any questions on this one?
No, that was a question I had, is where were we on the cleanup? Have we expended all the funds? But we will end up expending all 15,000, correct, Mike?
It'll be pretty close to that with the bids that we got from the tree specialist. What we spent for running the piece of equipment, it'll be real close to 15,000.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Okay, Councilor Dodge?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Prinsloo?
No questions. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to adjustment number 3.
Adjustment number 3, SDC administration fees for street construction. So with your SDCs, as you guys probably know, when you charge a developer system of development charges, there is an administrative fee that is also charged to them. And that amount comes into the fund that it relates to, in this case, street construction, goes along with the street SDC. And that amount initially comes into that fund, but then it's transferred over to the general fund where the administrative work is being, a lot of the administrative work is being done. So all this, excuse me, adjustment is recognizing is that the city received more in these SDC administrative funds than was expected. There's more development than was expected. And so on the expenditure side of that, we need to increase the transfer coming over to general fund. And that's what this adjustment is accomplishing.
Okay, just making sure the
Questions on
books
that one?
balance out here then.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, Councilor Odrish, any questions on number 3?
Nope, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Dodge?
No questions. Thank you.
Councilor Prinsloo?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to adjustment number 4.
Okay, adjustment number 4, water and sewer franchise fees. This is a very similar situation where resources came in higher than expected for utility fees in the water and sewer fund. And those utility funds pay a franchise fee back over to the general fund. So when their revenues come in are higher, their 5% franchise fee comes in higher or is calculated higher. So the transfer coming from those funds over to general fund needs to be increased accordingly. And that's what this adjustment is.
It makes sense again. Counselor Aldrich, any questions?
No questions.
Counselor Dodge?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Prinsloo?
I have no questions, thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to adjustment number 5, which should be the last one.
Actually, we only have 4.
Wow.
Yeah, but I did want to take a moment to do just a little bit of training with you guys. You may be familiar with this, and if so, then stop me. But I wanted to take the opportunity just to help management and council understand the differences in the kinds of budget adjustments. And there are different types of adjustments and different protocols for what you have to do according to Oregon budget law. So the first type is an appropriation transfer. So you've adopted a budget, you come back and you want to move some money from contingency and spend it over in materials and services. That's considered just a movement between appropriation categories. And that can be done just by a resolution with council. You don't have to do any fund dances or notices or public hearings. The second type of adjustment is a supplemental budget, but there's no hearing. So if you have budget adjustments like we're doing today that are more than just moving between appropriation categories, then you consider how large or how big those are. If it's a substantial dollar amount, you have to do some special procedures. But in this case, all of our changes are really small. And so we did not need to do a larger notice to the public. We just had to let them know there was going to be a supplemental budget at this meeting. And then we do not have to do a supplemental or a public hearing at this meeting. It can just be a discussion and a resolution adopted by council. So that is what we're doing tonight. And then of course, the third, which is if you have budget changes that are substantial, then there's more due diligence you have to do, more transparency and public input that you have to do. Any questions about that?
No. These are
Okay, we're ready to
I
look
do
at.
appreciate you outlining these.
Oh yeah, no worries, happy to. So now we're ready to look at the resolution 718-2021. Are there any questions about the resolution itself?
None from me, but let's go around. I'm going to go opposite order this time, and we'll start with Counselor Prinsloo
I have no questions.
and Counselor Dodge
I have no questions. Thank you.
and Counselor Aldrich.
I have a question as to this adjustment number 5 that we have. Is it null and void? I mean, I know Summer says we don't have an adjustment, but I have a number 5 in front of me.
The
I'm
sewer
so
debt,
sorry. I'm sorry, where are you looking? Is that on the slide deck or on the resolution?
It'd be on the slide. Sewer
Oh.
debt service.
I think that that is the old slide deck. There should be an updated slide deck. That adjustment we started looking at, Vicki and I dived into that more, and it turned out to be just a classification of a fee on your debt service that should not have hit that fund. It should have hit a different fund. So there was no adjustment needed for that.
Great, thank you. That's the clarification I was looking for. I have no further questions. Thank you.
excellent. So with that, I'm assuming we need to make a motion.
A motion to adopt these changes is,
Yes, the resolution.
I make a motion, we adopt the resolution stating the changes that were put before us.
I will
second it.
second.
Counselor Prinsloo beats it to the rush for the second. Okay, we have a motion to adopt resolution 718-2021 as presented by Summer. We have a second by Counselor Prinsloo. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Okay. So Vicki, you have all attending council voting aye. Are we good on that one, Vicki?
Anybody have the crickets?
Yeah,
Um,
we need to have some sort of yeah.
I apologize. I was having some difficulty. Yes, you're good to go. You're ready to go to item number 4.
Awesome. I just didn't want to move on just in case we screwed something up. Okay, let's go on to number 4, approval of the personnel services agreement between the City of Hubbard and the Civil West Engineering Services and authorize the Public Works Superintendent to sign. So I had a chance to look at it. Mike, I'm assuming on this one, this is just the same thing that we've been doing every year?
Pretty much, yes. It's just a renewal and we're just going through the formalities.
Before we move on with that, though, I do want to make sure that we don't have any questions from the rest of council that have had a chance to review this. And Councilor Adrish, you're shaking no, so are you good to, no questions?
I'm good.
Prenslow?
I do have a question for Mike. Mike, I just want to make sure that this Northwest Tech Support is an organization you want to deal with.
Actually, I liked their proposal a whole lot better than I liked Black Point. So yes.
Okay, that's my
And
only
if you-
question. Thank you.
If you want to know a little bit more, ask Melinda because she deals with the tech stuff a whole lot more than I do.
But wouldn't that be on agenda
Yeah.
topic number 7 around discussion regarding IT services?
Right, we're not there yet.
So Robert, if you look at your, it's somewhere in here. It should be City of Hubbard, Oregon Personnel Services Agreement. It's the one that we use for the engineering services for the city.
Yes, I understand that. Northwest Tech Support. I just wanted to make sure this was an organization that Mike wanted to deal with.
No, it's Civil West Engineering is for the personnel service agreement. The Northwest Tech Support is for agenda item number 7. And we're still on the number 4. I have more information to provide you on number 7.
Okay, so I guess my question needs to be restated then, Mike. Whoever it is that we are dealing with at Black Point, apparently, they are an organization that you want to deal with. That is my concern.
Yes, the company we're dealing with is the engineering, and it's somebody we've been dealing with for a couple of years, and I'm very satisfied with the services they provide to the city.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Michelle Dodge, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay, so on approval of this one and authorizing Public Works Superintendent to sign, Vicky, do you need a motion on this one, or do you just need consensus from the council, or at least the present council?
I need a motion.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the personnel services agreement between the City of Hubbard and Civil West Engineering Services and authorizing the Public Works Superintendent to sign.
I second that.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye,
Aye.
okay. All those present have voted aye.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Next one, discussion regarding Planning Commission membership. Vicky.
So we've been having difficulty filling the vacant position, and I had a person approach me and would like to be on the Planning Commission, but they do not live inside the city. We have 2 positions currently that can be outside the city limits. And I said that I would bring this back before council for consideration to possibly allow a 3rd member to be live outside the city limits, with the exception of at least one of those outside members having lived inside the city limits 12 months prior.
So Vicky, quick question for you on that. Do we currently have 3 out of the 5 seats filled, correct?
We have 4 seats filled.
Oh, we have 4.
Yes, you have 1 vacant position.
Whose position's vacant?
That was Anthony, who was the chair.
Okay, and does a person on the planning have to, if they don't reside in the city, do they have to own property in the city?
No. The person that approached me is a business owner of the city of Hubbard. So you could also put that stipulation in. Either one of them resides or owns, is a business owner or owns property in the city of Hubbard. I mean, you could word it in, different ways if you're interested in even pursuing that.
Are we gonna open this up to the public then?
Open what up to the public? What do you mean?
The open position we have, it's pretty much already open to the public to apply, correct?
That is correct. It has been.
And we don't have anybody breaking our door down,
Right.
submitting. Okay, I have no problem if we have somebody interested that really wants to do it. They're a business owner in town. I can see no reason why.
So if you're interested in doing that, then I would need to go work with the city attorney to amend the language that's in the current code and come back with you with an ordinance amending the chapter 2.35.
To stipulate that they either have to own a business, land, and or have some other interest within the city like that?
Yes.
Okay, before we move on though, Councilor Prinsloo, what's your thoughts?
I have no concerns about making that change.
Okay, Councilor Dodge?
I'm just curious, if we have 4 people, so are you saying that 2 out of the 4 people are already living outside of Hubbard?
That is correct.
And is that just the general city limits versus the entire town, or?
The one has a Hubbard address and the other one was a planning commission or is a planning commissioner, but has moved outside the city, not a Hubbard address.
And do they have a business here?
No.
So in amending the language, would we disqualify that other individual?
No, because you currently allow 2 outside members. It doesn't say it doesn't have any stipulations on it. But if you were going to have 3 outside, you would probably want to have at least one of those with some, some stipulations on there so that you don't have 3 outside members of Hubbard on your planning commission, recommending rules and stuff for your land use.
Yes, that would be my concern. Okay.
Right. And that would be my concern having as well, because if you have 3 people, now all of a sudden, all of them live on the outside. And if they don't have any businesses in Hubbard, then why are they on the planning commission for Hubbard? So that's my concern. If we put the stipulation in there that they have to either reside or have a business or both, then I think I'd be more comfortable with that.
And are you saying that at least one out of the 3 of the members has to have that?
Yeah, because here's my concern. If you have 3 people that are on the outside and only 2 live in Hubbard, right? Then what's to say they're, and I don't want to call anybody out or anything else like that because I don't know, but saying that they're doing suggestions for the city of Hubbard when they don't live here and they don't have a business here.
Right.
And so now you've got the majority of people that are on the commission that don't live in Hubbard. So I don't know. I'm back and forth.
I agree with Michelle. They need to have a vested interest in the city, whether they live here or whether they have a business here. They need to have a vested interest in being on our planning commission.
I would agree. So is the request that we're asking Vicky to go forth and do is to work with the city attorney to craft language to ensure that 2 of the 3 outside positions have a, if you want to say it, a vested interest within the city, such as either a property owner, a business owner, or a Hubbard address that might be not in the city limits. Is that what we're asking her?
I like that
I
wording.
think that we should look into language that says that at least 3 of the 5 members have a business or residential address, and no more than 2 can have any outside of the city address that are not affiliated by business or where they live.
I agree.
Does that make sense to you, Vicky?
I believe so. So you're
Okay.
saying no more than 2. They either they have to have a vested interest, property owner, business owner, or have a Hubbard address.
3 out of the 5 have to be vested in our community.
Okay, that's more restricted than what you currently have. So 3 out of the 5 have to have that. Right now it just says,
2.
yeah, and that's all it says. Okay, I will work with the city attorney and bring back some language for you guys.
Thank you, Vicky.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on to agenda topic number 6, authorized road closure and outdoor entertainment on July 17th from 7, I'm assuming that's 7 p.m., not 7 a.m.
That is correct.
Okay, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and waive $20 application fee. Matt. And by the way, everyone should have his application in their packet.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
This is Summer. I'm going to bow out of the meeting unless there's anything else I can be helpful
No,
with.
you're good to go. I think you're good.
All right. You guys take care.
Thank you, Summer.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Charles, did you want me to weigh in, or does everybody looking at the application at this point?
I have seen the application. I've also chatted with you, so I am well versed on what you're trying to do. And I do applaud you and appreciate you trying to pull together something as a community celebration, especially with the Hops Festival kind of not coming together this year. But I want to make sure that the other counselors do have a chance to speak. James, do you have any questions for Matt? Any concerns on the application?
Is there a parent group over the top of all this at all?
No.
No.
For what would, like I think I stated in my letter, first, if I can make one correction in the way that's written on the agenda, the band is hired to play from 7 to 10. And speaking with Chief Rash, we thought we could close it down at 5:30 to allow some time for some setup for some tables for the band to get set up and all that, and then reopen the street at 11 p.m. after they've all been able to tear down. So the street closure for the evening portion, I believe there's a parade happening in the morning, but for this evening portion would be from 5:30 to 11 p.m. For the actually blocking off the street at the points noted, the D Street, G Street, and then at the alley there behind Trapala.
All the necessary insurance to cover an event like this would be through you, Matt, or?
I haven't, I mean, the band, I don't know, there is part of my reason in looking to have it at this place. I don't know that there needs to be an insurance to have it in the public right away. There possibly might need to have that. Trapala has the authority and the right under OLCC, and especially with the new to-go liquor law, they said it makes it easier for them to serve drinks at their doorstep or whatnot if people were having them in the common area. So I tried to just privatize this. So any vendors, at this point, there are no outside vendors, but there was like a wine cart from Silverton that was maybe interested in being here. So they would have to apply through Vicky. They'd all of those independent portable businesses as the band. You know, they play concerts all over Portland, summer concerts, Moda Center, all of that. So I'm just relying on those independent entities to be set up to be mobile and to arrive and be licensed for what the activity they're conducting. Similar to the Saturday market, I guess, and I don't know if there might have been some kind of insurance umbrella policy over that. I'm not quite certain, but for this portion, I didn't, I interacted limitedly with the people. I heard this kind of came about very quickly. I knew that there was a parade and that some people were volunteering to do that in the morning. And then it came about that somebody was going to have a kickball tournament at the Barnsley Park from the hours of 1 to 9. I think he amended that. And I said, you know what? If we're going to placehold this Hop Festival Day or Hubbard's Day, it kind of the crown jewel or the end of the night is the band type of thing. Everybody can come together and listen to music. And so I just tried to put the cherry on top. And the planning has been interaction, at least speaking with Chief Rash, speaking with the fire department. At this point, Tyler Colgan's my point of contact there. He said he can facilitate all of those guys getting the stage there and set up. And then with Public Works with Mike being able to assist in closing the street. And I think it's going to be kind of a wham bam for those 3 hours they play, it gets torn down. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of involvement or needed for involvement from the city. Although I have, in talking with Chief Rash, would think he'd certainly want to arrange for a little bit extra officer assistance or presence, just like at the Hop Festival. But being that it's a lot shorter period of time, it's not an all-day beer garden or something like that. Hopefully that'll be even less impact on the city than the typical whole day Hop Festival event. So
I think it's a great idea. I'm in favor of it. I know in the past we've had applications and somebody had to produce just a couple of documents per ordinance, if I remember right. As long as we got the bases covered, I would throw my support behind this 100%. I think it's a great idea. I think it's time that we come out of this cooped upness and have a city party. I just want to make sure that you, for example, aren't putting your personal liability out there with your name on it, or somebody else, for that matter. That it's that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and we can have a party.
yeah. Well, the good news is I heard the Supreme Commander said we can start living tomorrow. So now we get to actually be humans again. So that's all great news. So.
From a city standpoint, Vicky, is there any liability concern that we have to, or that Matt would have to be concerned about on this?
I think that we need to check with Gustafson Insurance on this situation.
Okay, how quickly do you think we can close on that?
I think we can check with him tomorrow.
Okay. So assuming that there's no liability that would prevent us. Okay. I want to keep going through though. Councilor Prinsloo, questions, concerns?
I do have a couple things that I would like to see addressed. I like the idea, but I'd want to make sure, one, that we're following any city ordinance that we already have set up that everybody else has to meet. Two, do we have to have any type of monitor system from the OLCC if we're encouraging or at least allowing alcohol to be served in a public area? What precautions do we need to take to cover ourselves from the city? And last but not least, is there anything that the city is going to need to provide for the safety and well-being of anybody in attendance in a public place on a possible public street? So I'd want to make sure that those things are addressed before I give my approval.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you have a relationship. I'm not quite sure who the mayor of Aurora is now, but for about the last 7 years, they've had a public park concert. I sponsored that for 5 of those years, for 5 nights in the summer. And they have an open alcohol policy and have had a wine cart there as well as a food cart and an ice cream cart. And that is being consumed on Aurora property. So maybe if you could, if that was a concern, reach out to the Aurora mayor or their staff and see if they've had, how they've handled that with the open alcohol policy in their park for those over the course of those years in concerts.
Yep, I could reach out to Mayor Asher tomorrow morning on that one. So with those concerns, Councilor Dodge?
I do not. Matt went ahead and talked about this at the Hubbard Hop Fest meeting that we had recently. So there are staff members, Tyler was one of them who also works for the fire department, that is going to get together with Matt, and then Maureen Eldon was also going to work with Matt on something regarding that. So
Michelle, is this something that Matt would be able to use the Hop Festival committee, Hop Festival committee as an umbrella organization for the concerns around any of the city ordinances or liability issues?
if we did that, then we'd have to check with our insurance company
Okay.
and our liability, and then we'd have to pay for that.
If I recall, Mr. Mayor, and one of the things, and I was invited to their Zoom meeting last week, and the thing I didn't, didn't ask to be there, but I appreciated the invite. But last year was this COVID thing or whatever, and this year maybe was the tail end of that because they didn't have time to plan. But then if you remember 3 or 4 years ago, the reason the Hop Fest didn't come off was an insurance thing with a Hop Festival committee or whatnot. And with the fire department, I think you certainly have a different event there in scale and scope and whatnot. But so I could ask Hit Machine or Bart Hakeman, Hit Machine Productions, how their liability rider does for the band, and certainly I have covered that with Severo Trapala and the need for him to reach out. Number one, he said he could reach out to the OLCC, who would circle back to our chief to make sure that, and they're aware of the event, and they already have the to-go as state law, I guess, is going to be permanent. So it sounds like there's some provisions that kind of puts the onus of liability on the person taking or consuming the alcohol, because the restaurant obviously observes the capacity of somebody that's going to be picking up a beverage, and then it's on them to let them serve or leave. But then I guess with the to-go thing now, you could take it to the park or to your house or pass it off or do something inappropriate with it after it's out of their control. And that's apparently part of the current landscape of that to-go law. So he felt that actually the new protocols for the state of Oregon and that kind of put it on the individual and allowed him to. He did mention something, and that's why he said about contacting the OLCC, not just to go fly by the seat of his pants, but to note them of the outdoor event, or I think it was a notification of event or something like that, and then they would contact the local law enforcement.
So Chief Rash, you're on. Do you have any insight on the OLCC or any concerns, at least from the police department, on this?
Well, I'm not sure. I know that at events they always have like a security or somebody checking IDs. Matt, it's my understanding that Trapala is going to serve inside their bar. Or are they doing?
Well, I suggest that I guess they could serve in or at their facility, and then again with that to go. So keep in mind that they have a liquor license or license to serve and whatnot. And so like the typical events that are held at the park, it is a contained environment, and it is served. I think there's been some outsourcing of the serving over the last few years, but that is an over 21 venue. And for years, at least in my experience, it was the actual firefighters serving the beverages. And so that relieved the firefighters or those serving at the bar the liability because they'd been checked at the door. So I think at this point, that's privatized somewhat, that Trapala would be responsible to check the IDs of anybody purchasing alcohol from them at their facility. Just a normal restaurant protocol. The same with the wine cart, that has been at Aurora, and that I've reached out a little bit to be here, that they are licensed by the OLCC to be portable, to arrive at events, golf courses, all that kind of stuff. And they have to be sure they're serving in a legal manner to their customers.
I know that when we held the last festival, we had to hire OLCC to monitor the beer garden, and they are the ones that serve the alcohol, or the company we hired for the beverages. So it wasn't anybody local that could just do it.
That was part of my, I had multiple reasons. I think I stated in my letter, but part of the reason I put it on 3rd Street, I think it's kind of an evolution of downtown Hubbard with the Hubbard Inn transferring hands. Trapala seems like they're gaining steam. The cafe that I'm renting to the Schultzes over there, that they're going to open soon, to try to bring some energy there, but also to privatize it, to have these individual businesses that are set up and licensed to conduct this activity already. Because when you're like a nonprofit or trying to raise money for the fire department, that's a different capacity. You all have day jobs, and you're not licensed, and you're not servers, and you're not all of this. And so Trapala, being a restaurant that's already in business, is licensed to do all of this and have events in their back room. It would be different in the out the door thing, but again, there felt some level of confidence because of the way the law is written. So privatizing and putting the onus on those individual businesses and their liability, rather than have a city or a fire department or a hop festival event.
In this case, the OLCC would fall upon Trapala's, then you're saying, and or the wine cart, who has the OLCC license.
Yes, yeah, those people are licensed. I mean, the wine cart is licensed to be portable. They go to events all the time. That's what they do. And then Trapala is certainly licensed at their location to serve, and even to serve to go cocktails or beers or whatever is current protocol and law. And then when he mentioned the event, he said in that once he notifies them of the event, that they will come back to the local police authorities and whatever their discussion is, so that everyone's in the loop.
Okay. The next question then goes back to Vicky then. Vicky, Robert Prinsloo had a question on following city ordinances. How are we in terms from your perspective on then following said ordinances? Is there anything that is being violated? Anything that is being overlooked?
Well, so Matt submitted the application for the outdoor entertainment. That's what this application is.
Yep.
He's not the one asking to serve the alcohol. That's kind of separate, like he said. The only thing, would be that liability insurance. And as you were talking, I was thinking that when they held the event at the park, the liability insurance was required. So I'm just gonna, off the top of my head, say, I'm sure that, Gustafson Insurance is gonna require some kind of liability insurance for an event, for the, to have this out in the street, because it is city property.
Michelle, do you have any recollection of what the insurance policy has cost for the whole Hop Festival thing in the past?
I do not. I'd have to check with Andrea to see what we paid for it.
Okay.
So I can do that and find out.
So is not having alcohol readily available? I mean, they can go into Trapala Bar, have a couple cocktails in there, come out, listen to music. Is that an option of not open drinking for, say, outside of their establishment? And that would keep the liability down real low, if I remember correctly. It's when you add the word alcohol being served that the prices go up through the roof. So, I mean, or people can maybe have a cocktail at home, come down, enjoy the music. Are we addressing kids? You wouldn't have to worry about underage drinkers. Is that something that's an option?
I mean, any of it's an option. I just want the community to have a good time and blow off some steam. It doesn't have to be. I'm not suggesting people be booze hounds and down there, but it's been kind of part of the beer garden atmosphere. And the Aurora concert series has been a great success of that community. There's been picnic baskets and people sitting in the lawn, families, young children, toddlers, wine out with people on blankets and whatnot. So I'd love to have the option. And again, maybe in Vicky's discussions with Gustafson, if she can express, I guess, and them bringing it into a public space is probably the consideration, but Gustafson might be able to weigh in. And I'm not opposed. I mean, I'm sure I could raise some money, or if it's reasonable, kick in. The band wasn't cheap, but again, I'm just about getting it done, and I'm not going to sit here and crunch $200 or so. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm not. There's enough. I have enough vested in already financially, and enough excitement about it that let's figure out. I'm keeping an eye on the prize, and if we need some insurance or something, I'll participate, or maybe do a little fundraiser to let out some other people kick in. At this point, I didn't want to go around monkeying around. I just wrote the check in essence because I want to do it. The city's been good to me. I enjoy being here, and I just think it's worth it. And there's some other people have asked about fundraising, and I just didn't. You start getting too many cooks in the kitchen, and the next thing you know, you're slowing things down. And so at least and talking, I talked with Mike, with the mayor, with Chief Rash and whatnot before I committed to the contract, because I wanted to know some of the likelihood, and that wasn't to circumvent any kind of process. It's just the band. I had texted him. I know the lead singer, and I had texted him like on an evening last week or week before, and asked if he was available, and he said yes. The next morning, he called me and he said, "Matt, I just got a call from the Tigard Arts Festival, and they'd like me to play that night." But he said you had dibs. So I was kind of a little bit of a gun to my head, because I told him, give me 2 hours, and made some phone calls to give him assurance before I took him from booking another show. And then that's where we're at today.
Quick question then real quick. This would be for Mike and for Chief Rash. Another question from Prinsloo was to provide city resources. Are we any issues, Mike, that you see from your side?
No, there isn't. It's just a matter of for us in Public Works, dragging out some barricades and a few signs stating that the road's closed. Other than that, it's not real big issue.
Okay, and Chief Rash, Matt had mentioned that he's been chatting with you already about additional resources or officers, if you would. You also brought it up. Is there any concern from you?
So we're a little shorthanded that day. I'm out of town on a vacation that's been planned for 6 months, and then Officer Jimenez will be out of town. It's, I think, his brother's wedding that week. So we have 3 officers, and we'll have Officer Y to be there. So I just have to work with Sergeant Anderson if we can get somebody who's normally off to work the evening, so we have extra officer out.
But you believe we have adequate resources to be able to support?
Yeah.
Okay. So then back to Councilor Prinsloo, just following up on your questions. I want to make sure I didn't gloss over anything for you. It looks like we are following the city ordinances, minus it does look like Vicky's going to clarify on the liability insurance. The OLCC monitor and concerns, that is still an open. I will talk with Mayor Asher in the morning to see what they do with the Aurora concerts that they've had the previous years, to see if there's any concerns on that. And worst case, it sounds like we can also just honestly leave that to Trapala's. Trapala's, as a restaurant in Oregon, from what I understand, does have the ability to serve to go. I don't know if public consumption still plays into that. Maybe Chief Rash can play into that. But worst case, it also sounds like, as James said, if that is a sticking point, then maybe we just have consumption of alcohol on property. Maybe that's an alternative as well.
So just
being Trapala's. Go ahead, Michelle.
quick update. I did text Andrea to find out what the liability insurance was charged for the Hot Fest, and she said it was about $1,300.
So let me ask you this, if in the past, we've had a committee that the council appointed for certain events, then it was covered under the city's umbrella. Would the council consider that?
My question, Vicky, to you would be, at those other events, was alcohol being served?
No, alcohol was not being served.
And my other concern, to finish up with the mayor, is drinking in public, to my understanding, even though they buy it from a licensed premise, drinking in public is still prohibited by Oregon law. And I think the Aurora event takes place at a city park, which I'm guessing their charter allows for consumption of alcohol in that park. I don't know that our charter allows us to consume alcohol at the location or the streets around it. So I would want that looked into before I give my approval.
Okay. Again, I will contact Mayor Asher in the morning, but it sounds like there is a clear path to this. I guess, Vicky, you will check on the liability insurance in the morning for the city.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I know I've attended the Westland, and on the 10th Street, they have a street fair where they have hay bales out in the street and bands in the street, and then people walking up and down the street with alcohol and that. So again, there is a pathway to this. If it becomes too cost prohibitive, then, I mean, I'm not gonna just, throw a bunch of money for
Right.
3 hours. And I would guess because of the scope of the people and the time frame and whatnot of the Hop Fest, I would expect it to be more expensive, but a lot of communities do this, so it's not reinventing the wheel. So if I could just, if we can, I guess, my request would be to leave the alcohol portion up to city staff to make sure that we have a CYA for, even if Trapala serves it, if they bring it into public space, if that's an issue, how have other cities done with it? And then whether we, if everybody talks to Vicky, or if there needs to be some public process, I'll let that to you. But if if Vicky checks with our legal counsel and our insurer and all that stuff, then gives some direction, then we have some direction.
Right. Can I suggest then maybe a slight adjustment to the application to allow us to at least have some confirmation for you, Matt? And can we strike out the liquor to go for now and readdress the liquor discussion at the next council meeting, which would still be before the event? That allows us time to figure
Only
out.
a few days before the event. Kind of hard to book everything. He's needing to book it now.
I booked the band. I guess the thing that I would
Band
say
is
in,
booked,
in
yes.
fairness to Trapala is letting them be ready for an event and staff up and or be prepared. I've signed the contract to put half down for the band, so that my kind of commitment's done. So those other peripheral businesses that could benefit from the event, or local businesses that could that would maybe put them shorthanded, but it doesn't really affect me.
Well, I think Trapala's could still staff up and be ready for the event, even if their drinking is on premises, if you would. I think the only one that you're saying is currently at risk would be the wine cart.
I don't have any applications for that either, by the way.
And I'm not. It's a family member out in Silverton of a person here in town, a business owner, said they might be interested in bringing the wine cart. So yeah, that would be. And I haven't talked to multiple vendors. I've had 2 inquiries. One gentleman messaged me on Facebook, asked about selling his goods there, and I said, it's going to be short. It's going to be wham bam. It's music. People aren't going to be hanging all day to buy your stuff. So I don't probably think that's viable. And the wine cart, I have not talked to the vendor yet, but I've directed that anybody that shows up here to do business needs to go through City Hall. So.
And I guess what I'm suggesting is I would recommend that we allow Matt to close the city street down, move forward with the city celebration, with the exception of currently any alcohol being served at the outside of the businesses that are currently having OLCC until we can close on that. And of course, until we can close on the liability insurance as well.
So, hey, Mayor, this is Dave Rash.
Go ahead, Chief.
So one thing, and I talked to Matt about it, is the city ordinance does say noise is 7 to 9 o'clock, 7 a.m. to 9 o'clock. In years past, though, the Hops Festival's gone to midnight or at least 11. So I don't know what the process is, but if I'm the one who authorizes it, I don't have an issue with a variance to 10 o'clock that day. So I don't know what the process is on a variance, though. If there's another,
Quite honestly, I don't think on the Hop Festival we've ever approved a variance for that. Not that I can recall.
Oh, they just did it.
They just did it.
Okay.
They put it in their, application, and we approved their application as it was stated.
So in this
Okay.
case,
Matt
the
got it in
application-
his application till 10. I don't see anywhere on Matt's application, the actual outdoor permit, where he's requesting the service of alcohol.
I was going to note that. I did. Yeah, I made it close proximity to with the intent of them being able to have business. But you're right. I was going to note I didn't put it on the application.
So I don't see why we could not approve the outdoor entertainment permit for just the band and from 7 to 10.
Was it 7 to 10 or 7 to 11? Well, yeah, 7 to 10, but the closure would be from 5:30 to 11.
Right, and I'm okay with keeping the road closed. It's just we're allowing him to have the band play till 10. I don't see why that would be a problem. That should be fine.
One of the other things that I note in checking the site, I have Engelman going to try to provide. I need to have a 50 amp service, so wiring up a service out there. But the fire department said they'd like to set it up in the morning or something, so we don't have all day to close it down. So you need to get it like in close proximity. Well, looking at the site, as the E Street kind of enters into what is now the parking lot for the cafe, I think I'm going to encourage the fire department to set it up right on curb's edge and out of the right of way so they can come in the morning, fully set it up, and that will keep the traffic, the closure down. They can set the stage up right along curb's edge, traffic can pass by. We can have it all powered up and whatnot. The band comes, sets up at 5:30, but then even if they want to leave it overnight or whatnot, it'll be off of the street. And I'm trying to look to rent some tables and chairs possibly from like the people that rent them to weddings and whatnot, and set some of those out there. So it'll be a really quick setup, a really quick tear down, and hopefully that the fire department can have a little more time to do their thing.
Okay, then can I propose then, because you're right, it's not a lot of time to plan. But if you do read the application that Matt submitted, there is no alcohol mentioned on it. It is just mentioned an outdoor festival with the adjustment on the times that I'm understanding the road closure from 5:30 to 11. No worry, assuming.
I'm sorry, somebody has feedback and it's hard to hear what you're saying. If they could put themselves on mute, that'd be great.
Okay, is it better now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So with that, I would personally like to have us move forward so Kennedy can start getting things in shape and plans to allow us to at least have the band play and the community come together.
I agree.
Michelle,
I agree.
is that acceptable for you, Robert?
Yes, I'm in agreement to close the street and have the event.
Okay. In terms of any question on OLCC, I will still reach out to Mayor Asher in the morning for you, Matt. Chief Rash, I will let you and Vicky and the counselors know what I learned from that. But in this case, right now, we'll assume that there's no outdoor alcohol consumption at this time. And we can at least move forward with approving Matt's application and get the band at least set up.
Mayor, would it be possible for us to allow Tripola to make the sidewalk around the East Street side and the 3rd Street side? I would think that they should be able to serve alcohol there if they do when you're eating.
They currently do, and that was one thing. I don't know how they were kind of forced to put tables out there, and it actually turned out to be a good thing for that week where the governor popped it open in the back. And so I've seen that thing fill up, and it gives a nice energy when you're driving. I mean, people like that. And yeah, I don't know what the rules are about that, but they are currently serving outside of their 4 walls, to some capacity. So
I think
Maybe
the person there is controlling the alcohol though from being consumed
Exactly.
off the sidewalk.
So maybe Tripola can put a little banner across, just a little thing across the sidewalk that says, hey, you're entering a controlled establishment that we will have. And maybe they can serve just in that little area on their sidewalk so people can enjoy the band from their sidewalk.
yeah, I think, and I suggested to him too to have some kind of like stock up, like maybe some ready-made tacos or something he can kind of serve out the back door. Because if people there for a couple hours, I mean, I want to benefit him too. They had a hard year. So, but that I said, get ready. So like, I'm bringing, he goes, oh yeah, everybody says that and nobody shows up. I said, I promise you're going to have some people here. So, get some pre-made fixings or whatnot that you can serve like a special. Here's taco special 3 for something, because you could run out of things. You don't usually have this kind of something you can prepare quickly and have a lot of sales outside of just liquor. I mean, you have to have some food items. So my idea, he would kind of have maybe that back door that opens up to the sidewalk or something and set a table there. I think he can figure out the logistics and could be, in touch with the chief or the OLCC to where, I mean, that's not my deal. I don't run a restaurant. I don't deal with the OLCC, and I don't want to, speak on his behalf. So if he feels compelled to serve the audience that's there in a way that's appropriate, I'll let that to him. If he says it's too much to deal with and he doesn't have the staff, he can shut the doors. I don't care. But I'm hoping that adds to the venue and the event rather than detracts.
Understood. I think with that, I would just, and in the essence of time, I would like to just make a motion that we authorize the road closure and entertainment permit that Matt Kennedy has submitted as written, with the exception that the hours would be from closing the road from 5:30 to 11, not from, I think it was 7 to 10. And as written. with the assumption that liability insurance will be at least covered based on what we find out from Vicky.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, you have council's approval to close down the street, Matt.
Thank you, Council, Mr. Mayor, Chief, Mike,
You're
all
welcome,
you.
and I will
So-
reach out to Mayor Asher and I will provide council at least an update on what they've been doing for their garden surveys. And Vicky will look for a message from you on the liability.
Good stuff. I appreciate it. Michelle, get started for next year so you can bring the Hop Festival back.
Yes, I hope so. Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks,
Matt.
guys. Good night.
Mhm.
Okay, let's move on to our next agenda item, update and discussion regarding IT services. Vicky.
Okay, I'd like to give you a brief history on our IT services. We originally started out with DP Northwest in 2002. We had a minimal support agreement where they would provide management, install security patches, remote service, and disaster recovery, and free network consultation. In 2012, they went to a DBA of Northwest Computer Support, and we did also enter an agreement for data protection and backup service with them. And then between 2012 and 2013, BlackPoint bought them out. And between around May, BlackPoint tried to get us to enter into or negotiate a contract with them. And they did not like the language that we were presenting back to them. And we went back and forth and nothing ever came of that. So where we're at today is I provided you, they did an analysis on our everything that we have here. I was really disappointed when I found out that when they come out to do their monthly service like we originally agreed with the previous owners, they were not doing the service patches unless they're being told. And now I'm being told that if they're going to do service patches, that's going to be extra. Their prices increased. Was it last month or the month before, which I had short notice of. But at any rate, I wasn't really happy with the meeting that I had with them. And what came of that meeting is all of the documentation that you have before you and the fees and the service agreement that they would like us to enter into. They also provided us just an agreement for patches only. You have that, and they still kept pushing the replacement of the old server that we have. And it's I believe that's our terminal server where the Public Works, because they're offsite, they log into our main server and they use that server. And yes, it is old. So I have another person that we have worked with in the past, and he works for Northwest Tech Support, which I presented to you his plan for the server. And then we discussed further a service agreement, which I have also included in your packet. And he's substantially lower. I asked him about the patches, and he said that with the installation of the remote agent on the different desktops, that he would be able to log in and it would be covered with our 4 hours a month that we originally have, or that we do are supposed to be getting with BlackPoint. So, and I did record our meeting. I believe Dave was included in the meeting, and unfortunately Mike and Melinda had some other engagements that they were at. So I recorded the meeting and they were allowed to watch and listen, and they are more than welcome to chime in, but I'm recommending moving from BlackPoint to give them notice and go with Northwest Tech Support.
I know I can chime in here real quick. In the last 3 years of signing checks, I've signed a lot of checks to BlackPoint, and I've asked you about them a few times and questioned just the cost. And I see now when I read the contracts that at least was presented on why we had so many. And it's because anything that can't be resolved within 30 minutes on a phone call, they dispatch someone out, which then has extra costs to it. And that adds up very quickly. Mike, Melinda, what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, as I said earlier, I'll let Melinda take this one because she deals with the IT people on a more frequent basis than I do.
On this one, I definitely agree with, and I also recommend the same as Vicky, that we do make that switch over to Northwest Tech. He actually has worked with our system before, and I've had very good experiences in the past. And just overall, you know, I won't go into detail. Vicky already covered that really well, but definitely I would recommend that we switch to Northwest Tech for our IT services.
And this is one of those potentials, Vicky, that we can look at saving some expenses for the city.
I believe so, definitely. I feel like we're being nickeled and dimed by Black Point. And and maybe, they work with larger agencies and whatnot, and they'd like to provide us with, more than what we really need. I mean, the Northwest Tech Support, I feel like we're kind of back with, when it was a DP Northwest kind of thing when we first started, and he knows our needs, he knows our system, and I just don't feel like we're going to be nickeled and dimed like we're currently being.
I'll open it up real quick for Councilor Prinsloo. Any questions on this?
I have no questions other than if staff feels that this is a choice, then I'm all for it.
Councilor Dodge
I think it's a good decision.
and Councilor Odrish.
Yeah, I know nothing about this stuff. So I take those that know more about it's word for it. And if it sounds like staff's in favor of it, they've done their homework, got my blessing.
Okay, Vicky, what do you need from us?
I just would like a motion to authorize staff to provide Black Point notice and to enter into the personal service agreement with Northwest Tech Support.
I would love to make that motion then. I would make a motion that we authorize staff to give notice to Black Point IT on canceling our current services and direct staff to begin negotiations with, is it Northwest IT?
Northwest Tech Support.
Northwest Tech Support to enter into a service agreement.
I second
I
that.
second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, you have unanimous support amongst us that are currently present, Vicky.
Thank you.
Okay, in terms of number 8, other city business, I do want to bring up Chief Budge has sent out an email earlier today in regards to discussions on banning fireworks. It doesn't sound like Woodburn Woodburn, Hubbard, and I believe it was Jervis. I'm not sure of the third city on that, but they are not recommending this type of ban because it is unenforceable. Instead, they are sending out a community informative flyer or community engagement to try to ensure people are making wise decisions. I just wanted to make sure that everyone did receive that email, and if there was any concerns for council to have the opportunity to bring it up here.
Nope, I think it's well stated on behalf of the chief.
Councilor Dodge,
No concerns. Thank you.
Councilor Prinsloo.
I have no concerns, thank you.
Other than that, I'm just going to stay silent on social media around that because it's just going to be no pun intended, probably a firestorm, no matter which side you tries to choose on that one. Okay, with that, any other city business, councilors?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things I'd like to chime in on while I've got you all sitting around a computer screen.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just to let you know that last week, Friday, the Motor for Well #1 put off a quite spectacular fireworks show. So it got sent to be rebuilt. And it was kind of a rough one during the hot weather because we were using record amount of waters, but we were able to keep the supply going. But if we have an issue with one of the other wells, then that's going to put us in a world of hurt.
Do we have an ETA on when that well or the pump's going to be rebuilt?
2 weeks.
Do we need to send out
So-
a notification to ask residents to maybe curb usage, or do we just need to monitor it right now?
I think we just need to monitor it. Yesterday, we went through 631,000 gallons, which is about 100,000 gallons more than normal. And we were able to keep up with it. And I think with the cooler weather, I think the consumption is going to be down substantially. But I just want you folks on the council to know that if something goes wrong with one of the others, then we'll have to be asking for people to limit their water use.
Sir, any potential contingency, a backup motor that can be purchased or rented?
It's something I would look into if we got to that point, but I believe it would probably take as much time to find one than it would to be rebuilding the other one. Because if push comes to shove, I can ask the Tri-Motors to do a rush order on it. It's just at this point going to cost us about twice as much.
Okay, so let's hope. Go ahead.
I think we should be just keeping that monitored. And let Mike just let us know if you need something from us ahead of this.
I agree. Mike, can you send us out just an update maybe in a couple of days to see if we're seeing a curb?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yes.
No other motors going to give us a fireworks show this weekend?
I hope not.
Okay. It was hot.
Oh.
I'm sure. I'm not surprised we didn't have more machines failure across the state. Prinsloo or Dodge, any questions for Mike on that particular topic?
None from Dodge.
I have no questions. Thanks for letting us know, Mike.
I do.
You're
appreciate the
welcome.
update.
And the second thing I've got for you is I finally got the final proposal in for the sidewalk we talked about a couple of months ago on G Street. We'll be putting in 54 feet of sidewalk up to the railroad right of way with an ADA ramp. And for the rest of that project, we're still waiting on the railroad to get back to us with exactly what we need to do and what the cost of those improvements will be.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you for the update.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank
That's
you,
all I've
Mike.
got.
Okay. But I have one other city business, but I want to make sure, Michelle, any issues, topics you need to bring up?
No, sir.
Okay. Prinsloo?
I have none. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to remind everyone that I did make a request at the last city council that once the state has listed our state of emergency as well as the COVID restrictions, that we get the city hall back opened and we start meeting again in city councils. It looks like tomorrow should be the day that things are opened back up again. I wanted to make sure there was still no concern amongst council, considering that we would be following state regulations still.
I have a question about that.
Go ahead.
I have not been able to look into it, but is that also removing the OSHA requirements?
What would the OSHA requirements be?
The OSHA requirements of cleaning, distancing, et cetera,
My understanding that all that goes, once the restrictions are lifted, there's no 6 feet, there's no masks.
I thought though, under government entities, they are still required to do that. We need to check that.
I know federal maybe because of airplanes and buses, but yes, I think we just need to look into that.
Let's verify it, but I would still recommend that we get we need to open back up.
We do.
I agree. I just want to make sure that we're not, because before that's kind of what
That was my concern.
was
Was
the
to make sure,
OSHA.
yeah. Robert, do you have any concern?
I don't have any concern. I do know that other city halls are opening up. My guess is that when we check with OSHA, they're going to say that we can open. I don't know if there's going to be the continued cleaning requirement or not.
I think, yeah, I don't know where OSHA's going to go on that. So Vicky, if you can just check on that one, but I just want to, if we could unlock the doors and try to resume back to some normalcy, if that's even.
Is that something we can shoot for, like next Monday, or is Monday going to be considered a holiday because the 4th falls on Sunday?
I mean, it's a holiday.
So maybe Tuesday? Make sure we get all of our stuff in line.
Sure. Does Melinda, I just want to ask Melinda if she knows anything about OSHA, because she keeps up on the emergency management stuff. I don't know if she heard me.
Still there, Melinda?
We'll check into it and get back to you guys. I have an update on the generator.
Okay, go ahead.
We got a temporary generator in here because our new one wasn't going to be here until August, and we had a power outage on, was it Monday, or I'm kind of losing track of days, and the temporary generator burned up. So we are currently without a generator, and Mike and Melinda has been looking around trying to get a replacement for City Hall, and we're hoping to get that done within the next day or two. If it's not borrowing one, we may end up just purchasing one that's going to run the server and minimal things here at City Hall until our new one gets here.
Would Sunbelt have one, do you think, or would it be too big?
Sunbelt, that's the one that we rented.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Vicky, maybe someone there has already thought of it, but have we checked with county emergency management to see if they have one we can borrow in the interim?
I believe that Melinda, I'm not speaking for Melinda, but I believe that she may have already done that.
Okay, I figured someone probably had. I just wanted to throw that up there.
And actually, I apologize. I was trying to get unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So to back up to answer that question, yes, I'm working on seeing if there are any generators out there that would be appropriate size that we can borrow. So far, everybody has said, I'm so sorry, no, but still waiting to hear if there's anything that might come up. Also kind of through our state public works kind of resource sharing program as well. But it's looking pretty unlikely, especially for more of a long-term thing, which we may need for that City Hall generator until we get the one that we purchased actually delivered and installed. And then to back up also to answer your question about OSHA guidelines. So originally they started out with the COVID thing as a temporary rule with all of their requirements and restrictions, et cetera. But they're only allowed by law to carry that temporary rule for a certain amount of time. And so they did end up having to make that rule permanent, but they did try to ensure the state of Oregon that they and others that they actually were, even though it's being made permanent, it's not really permanent. So I will see if I can reach out to them and kind of see what's carrying over once our state has, actually officially reopened. But right now we still would need to follow OSHA guidelines because it is a permanent rule. So.
Okay. We just have to then plan for that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, any other city business before we close?
Mayor, this is Dave.
Go ahead, Chief.
So Councilor Prinsloo said that he believes state law is about open containers or drinking in public. I'm not sure about that, but we do have a city ordinance that says no person shall drink or consume alcohol, liquor in a public place, street, alley, bunch of stuff in there, unless it's been licensed for the purpose by OLCC. So I think that if they want to drink on the street there, they'll have to probably get some permit from this OLCC, would be my guess. Yeah.
I'll circle around and talk with Mr. Kennedy about that so he can inform Tripolis as they try to pull together their event.
Yeah, and that if Councilor Prinsloo knows of the state of Oregon law, for sure, I'll research that tomorrow.
It could be one of those silly laws where they just have tables out there where you have to be seated at a table like they did in Vegas. It was very weird. Any other business?
The last thing I have, Mayor, is I know that there were some quote unquote people that stepped up during the ice storm. And I don't recall us as a city council kind of recognizing them. I would ask that if the department heads have any particular individuals, businesses, or what have you that really stepped up to help guide us through that ice storm and keeping our citizens safe and what have you. It'd be nice if we could have one of the upcoming council meetings where we just kind of say our thank yous publicly and maybe present a certificate of thank you on behalf of the city. I know there's people that did fuel, there's people that stepped up to help elderly. It'd be nice to have some of that information that we as a city and maybe get a press release thanking them on behalf of all that they did. Is that something we can look at for maybe the
Do
next?
we have a list of names and Vicky and Chief Rash?
I'm sorry, what about the list of names?
Do we have a list of names of volunteers, those businesses that stepped up during the ice storm?
I-
Mike, I know, for example, like Oregon Turf on the fuel, Rocky Sherwood for his time clearing wood, etc.
It'd be
I don't
nice.
have any such list.
It'd be nice if any of the department heads and even us as councilors, mayor, maybe if we knew somebody that we can recognize them, take 5 minutes at a meeting to publicly acknowledge their commitment to the city and the help that they did and how much it's really appreciated. That's all I have.
But we can put an agenda topic, I think, in July on that one for sure.
Great, thank you.
Any other city business? Okay, next agenda item is adjournment.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
Second.
Aha, beat you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned on our special session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great evening.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.